Brad, which is go live without you. Some people have to run.
He's not well.
So I mean, I can watch that.
No,
It was on the second revised to make sure why it wasn't on the third revised.
But it would be, it's one thing to go after people for things.
This one or the?
When you just start looking up things, you follow your own agenda, which is,
You go to the back.
it's already assigned. Yes, the only thing that changed was the name. So I didn't even notice and I saw that. I pulled her driving, I didn't even look at it.
We're working, sorry.
When you buy it, you buy all the permits and rules. Because if there was a permit application,
Alrighty.
it's already been approved once.
Look back up, that's just what I agree with what you're saying.
They're probably discussing
Like I said,
today.
he wheeled in there and wasn't sure what anything I noticed.
I
didn't notice this until after.
All of this is on.
It was there at the beginning.
That's
insane. So remonstration is a citation. It is in the neighborhood. Remonstration is a sign of this. I mean, how can you argue that?
So you do how we truly thinks and feels.
That's crazy.
Right now, lose his job, you know. So,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah.
Five flag.
For life.
That's what it is. But from me, from my reading of Indiana Citizens
I got to do
Guide, you
hearing
don't
aids a
have to have
couple weeks
staff
ago.
reports.
Yeah.
And that's
And I've been pretty good about it. I've this morning, I've done reported at 2 o'clock. All that got off. So I got to drive all the way back home, stick the damn thing.
Hey, John, can you send, do you like talk to Gary or Mark Gary?
Yeah, I have to get my phone.
Okay. Cause I don't have his contact info. Well,
She just told me to add him on, so he needs to just,
I mean, I'm an attorney, we can ask Jeff Graham, that's what I read in Indiana Citizens Planner Guide under BCA Basics and Planning. I mean, it's nice to have a staff report, but
I mean, I feel like you're kind of blind on a lot of these things without.
because, well, I brought my land use code book. I figured, okay, we're gonna have to start getting into these laws. We have, I mean, it's crazy to make these people wait. I mean, we can't just keep taking.
I am on
this
top of the
stuff.
world looking down.
So, you know, right on the page of the application.
Better than being underneath.
That's right.
Right here, criteria, we have to answer these
That's
criteria,
right.
you know, these questions
Woke up and
according to.
had breakfast.
And
That was a good
ask
thing.
the audience if there's anyone here that's from administrators that, I mean, probably have a comment you take into consideration what the public has to say. You know, and we can put conditions like Brett says, you know, we approve this if we, you know, have setbacks or landscape or whatever. As long as we can meet the criteria, I don't see why we can't all do our homework here.
we're waiting on Mark Gary and Lindsay to.
Are you doing Farm Bureau webinar on Thursday?
Which one is that? What's
So
the?
planning and zoning.
No, I probably should. I just looked at a few, but I didn't see
I
that one.
signed up to sit in on
Okay, I'll have to log on there and see what that's about. When
it.
did
That's
that?
the one that your attorney
Oh,
is a guest speaker.
okay. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, because I think I missed that one. I did that land use summit a while back. So did Farm Bureau have him come on, or like, how did he get there?
I have no idea.
You should bring that up to me. Invite everyone else if it's a through farm, it's,
Yeah, but the registration is closed for it, so
oh, you can get in there to see it.
not,
Hey,
I'll have to
you
walk
can
around.
register late or not. Yeah. Registration closed like Friday.
Is there a line down?
Yeah, I'll have to get in there and see if I can.
he's waiting.
There's more.
Awesome. Welcome, Mark.
Hello.
Do we still want to wait on Lindsay? He's supposed to be rejoining.
Okay. He called in once.
Did you get Lindsay on yet?
He's not come back on. We did have him in there, and then when she shut you guys off and came back on, he never came back on. So I just sent him a message and told him to please join, but he's not up here.
Okay. I'll go on.
Wes wants to know if you guys want to go on and let him join, or,
Yeah, I just let him
Yep,
go.
let's move on.
yeah, you can go ahead and, start Wes.
Are you ready to?
Yes, we're all ready.
Let's call this meeting to order for February.
Because I was afraid somebody
Say a prayer.
It doesn't
Okay.
matter that I
Hang
have
on,
45
Wes, I don't
on
think
payroll.
anybody heard you.
Yeah, nothing matters. It doesn't matter. It's like you said, I just go back to what I said before.
Okay, do it again.
It's sad.
Start over.
It's sad time.
All right, let's call this Madison County Planning Commission February 8th meeting to order, 2022. We're gonna start with a prayer, and Jerry said he'd say the prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful that we all were able to wake up this morning, and we're here this morning to conduct business, and we pray that you would give us wisdom and help us, Lord, as we do the business of this particular board. We certainly pray for all the county employees and everybody that's doing things for the county government. We pray that you would give those who protect us safety today as they go about their business. We pray that this will be a good day for all of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Or do you think all the mics are on, Stacy?
Yeah, we didn't hear any of that.
Are all your mics on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll just make sure that you need to talk with them. Yes, everybody's is on.
Okay, they're gonna speak into them really good. Hey, Corey, since I'm not there, would you do the pledge, please?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Hey, Wes, this is Jerry.
Stacy,
Can I say something here? On
Jerry wants to say something
Tuesday
real quick.
mornings, every Tuesday morning,
Okay.
I have a meeting it's a conference call at 10:30.
Can't hear him.
Will you speak in more into your mic?
Every Tuesday morning at 10:30, I have a conference call that I have to participate related to my job. And so when I leave, I'm not leaving because I don't like what's going on, or I just have a conference call I have to go to, and I was hoping that these meetings would be over by 10:30.
Okay.
So it got back to me that I was leaving because I didn't like what was being talked about. The fact is, I have a conference call every Tuesday at 10:30.
That it?
Did you guys hear him?
Yeah, part of it. They just have to speak really close into their mic.
Okay.
All right, good. We ready for a roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark Gary,
Here.
Denise Spooner,
Here.
Jerry Alexander,
Present.
Lindsey Brown, Tom Shepard,
Here.
John Richwine,
Here.
John Zimmerman,
Here.
Corey Bolander,
Here.
and Wes Likens.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the January 11th meeting. Are there any addition or correction to those minutes? Anybody?
The one thing that I will ask is that on the appointments that we talked about at the last meeting, there were 7 yeses and 2 nos, and I just need confirmation for the nos. And I believe
I know
Lindsay,
Lindsay. Yeah,
That
he
was-
sent you one that said no, right?
yes.
That was myself and
Okay.
Lindsay, and I seen an email last night confirming and answering that question that Lindsay said no.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. I didn't see yours, Denise, I saw Lindsay's, so,
Okay.
perfect, thank you guys so much.
I don't know the answer to bottom of the page 1, which member nominated Brad Newman. I know it came from down there, I think, but remember, John, was it Mark or
And
you?
does anybody remember, who nominated Director Newman?
No, I don't.
Stacy, you could just.
No, I don't either.
Unduly made motion.
Okay.
I don't recall.
I don't either.
That was my only 2, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any others? Any motions?
I make a motion to approve the minutes. What page was it?
I'll second.
Tom Shepherd made a motion to approve, seconded by Alexander.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes.
Thank you.
The next thing on, thank you. And Corey, if I need some help, you can jump in. The next thing on our agenda is discussion about the planning consultant. I think we'll move that down and do that last. So we could go right into the petitions. Since we kind of have a skeleton crew, we'll just do the petitions, have that discussion today.
Can the people online hear me? I'm speaking.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good.
Yep. Yes.
You have 2 old petitions in front of you. They were introduced at your January meeting. They are a request for a zoning change and a waiver on property at 5205 South 525 West. My understanding is the property owner is ill today and will not be here. The property owner did appear at your January meeting and gave evidence and talked briefly, not briefly, in some detail about the proposals and the petitions. Owing to the situation that I guess we'll get to at the end, those were continued. Once of notice didn't have to be re-given, but those public hearings are still ongoing. Mr. Likens, would you like to invite any other public comment? We do have a pretty good crowd here today. I don't know if any of are here on these particular petitions, but with your permission, I'd like to open it up for any discussion on the properties, both either the zoning request change or the waiver at 5205 South 525 West.
Yep.
Is there anyone here on those 2 properties that would like to speak either in favor or against the zoning change or the waiver? Just on that property. Commissioners, I hear none. I don't believe there's anyone online either that would like to speak on this. As such, I have, and I am certainly not a planner, I have taken worked with the planning staff draft proposed findings that you guys can do what you wish, amend, throw out, adopt. You would have to accept them separately. The first one is a zoning change. Zoning changes can only be made by the Board of Commissioners through ordinance, but you make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And if you remember, this zoning change was from a CR to an IS. This was the business that I think it was called Grace in Motion. It was discussed at your January meeting. I've come up with proposed findings. Again, this is just after listening to the presentation and talking briefly to staff. You must make the following 5 findings to have a favorable recommendation. You can go ahead have a neutral recommendation or a unfavorable recommendation. First finding, does the proposal comply with the comprehensive plan? And my proposed finding on that is yes, the proposal, if approved, with the conditions contained in the November 9th, 2021 letter provided to the Madison County Planning Department, would permit the institutional zone district / small scale industrial zone zoning classification. Your second finding, would the proposed classification be consistent with current conditions, the character of current structures and uses in the immediate districts? Yes, the proposed business, assuming conditions with regard to the number of members on site, operating hours, square footage of the building, and open space, would allow the planned building to be within the residential character of surrounding neighborhoods. 3, the third finding, would the proposed classification be consistent with the most desirable use for which the land is adapted? Yes, the proposed zone change is the most desirable use for which the land is adapted. The subject parcel is surrounded by an agricultural area, which provides significant buffers to farming operations and residents in the surrounding area. 4, the fourth finding, does the proposal substantially conserve property values throughout the jurisdiction? Yes, the proposal will not have a negative impact on property values throughout the jurisdiction. The proposal would allow an existing business to expand to a location that is more suitable for its growth. 5, is the proposal reasonable in regard to responsible development and growth? Yes, the proposed zoning is reasonable regarding responsible development and growth. The subject parcel is sufficiently rural to not affect existing businesses, residences, and agricultural use, and thus is best suited for commercial use, and the comprehensive plan supports development of this nature. Again, that's just 5 proposals. We tried to put on the planning director hat. You have an option to, you could accept those, we could amend those, we could table it again to further review the record on that. But it's up to the Plan Commission what I'd like to do at this point on the rezone. And it would be, again, this is a recommendation only on this one. Your waiver, you're the final say. On rezoning, the commissioners are the final say, and you're an advisory board.
Can you jog my memory as to why we tabled this at the last meeting? Was it because we didn't have a staff report?
Yes, we didn't have a staff report, and it was, yeah, exactly. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, in light of the fact that they're already operating and we don't have anyone here to remonstrate against this, I would move that we accept or make a recommendation to the commissioners that we give a favorable opinion regarding the rezoning of this particular business.
And Jerry, would you like to, as part of that motion and for recommendation, adopt the conditions contained in the November 9th letter, which talk about things like hours of operation from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., number of staff members on site, limitations?
Correct. That was what I just read, so.
Okay.
That's
very good.
Why I would do that.
Jeff, I have a question. Is that enough parking? I mean, they're talking about quite a few clients. I know they come and go. I was just curious if that was enough parking. Looks like there's about 12 spots there.
You also see in that drawing, there's some overflow parking that's marked too, John. There's like a
Gravel
gravel
overflow parking.
overflow area.
Do you have the drawing, Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Looks like just to the north of the spot that you just referred to, there's a gravel overflow parking.
I see. Okay, I didn't read that. I couldn't read that. Okay, I see now. So it didn't like it sounds like they kind of come and go. So it's not like there's, because they said up there that it's been grown to over 100 clients, and so I was just curious. But then you go on down there, and it's 5 to 9 per hour, and then plus the employees. I mean, the parking lot's going to be full, but maybe that's okay. I guess I was thinking the people coming in, the people leaving, if that was enough spots.
Mr. Graham, have you looked at the minimum lot area and the setbacks and the coverage that they're required for the IS standard? Do they meet that? I mean, looking at the...
I have not reviewed that. I don't know, ma'am.
Okay.
If they're found not to be in compliance of that, that certainly could be a citing of the planning department, one they would have to fix.
Takes a little bit more study today. I brought the land use book because I figured we might have to look something up. Grateful sometimes for Brad that he knows these things, but the minimum lot area is 10,000 square feet. Minimum lot width is 100 feet. And so the minimum lot frontage is 70% of the lot width on a public street with access from the said public street. And then the depth needs to be 2.5 times the lot width. They own this whole parcel though, correct?
Yeah, it's 2.35 acres, so they got
So there should be, yeah, we're okay on the depth and road frontage, and so looking at this, I believe they've met these standards.
Well, it's 271 feet. It's pretty obvious that they have enough space. If they were to have to increase parking, they would. I mean, one thing about businesses, if you can't park your clients, you somehow figure out how to get them in there.
Yeah, they have a paved area, and then there's a gravel overflow parking on the side.
Did Jerry make a motion, Jan?
I did make a motion. So far, there's not been a second.
I second that motion.
Tom, can you speak up so we can hear you?
I second the motion.
There has been a motion by Mr. Alexander and seconded by Mr. Shepherd to adopt the findings of fact as read with the conditions contained in the application packet.
Is that just for the first petition?
Yes, yes,
Or are we
yes.
doing them both at the same
Rezoning.
time?
No, they're different findings, so we have to run through this again.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Are we ready for a roll call?
Yes, sir, I believe so, unless there's any other discussion.
All right, you guys ready? Mark Euring,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Villander,
Yes.
and Wes Likens.
Yes. Motion passes.
So there will be a favorable recommendation on that zoning change sent to the Board of Commissioners. They could hear that as early as their February 15th meeting.
I'd like to make a note that Lindsay joined the meeting about 10 minutes ago.
Okay. The same petitioner has a waiver request in front of you. This was for to waive the requirement to connect to public utilities. Evidence was presented, if you recall, at your January meeting, just distance was a major problem. That's my walk-up
Sorry.
music. It's a little late. But they did present some evidence on that. They also, in your letter, you have evidence there is a working septic and well there now. Obviously, that would be, well, obviously, in my findings that I've given as a possible template, those must be maintained in good order. I've made the following proposed findings for the waiver. You must make these 5. They are different than for a zoning change. The findings of fact for a waiver are: 1, would the approval be detrimental to the public safety, health, or general welfare of the community? No. The approval would allow the ongoing use of an existing well and septic system. Testimony has been received that both the well and septic system are in good working order. A properly installed and working well and septic system creates no risk to the public safety, health, or general welfare of the surrounding community. 2, would the approval of this petition be injurious to the reasonable use and development of other property? No. Evidence exists that the well and septic system currently in place on the property are in good working condition. The continued use of these existing resources do not create injury to other property. 3, are the conditions of this request unique to this specific property, which would not be applicable to other property? Yes, this property's distance from public water and sewer requirement is so large that it would make the property unusable for its intended use. 4, will the strict application, regulations, and ordinances result in a practical difficulty in the permitted use of the property? Yes. Owing to the large distance from the subject parcel to public utilities, requiring a strict application of the county's ordinance would practically stop the project and could, in fact, increase injury to surrounding properties owning to the significant construction over neighboring parcels, which would be necessary to bring the subject parcel into compliance. And 5, would approval of this request contradict the intent of the comprehensive plan? No, the comprehensive plan supports the development of small businesses in the subject zoning district, and that's assuming that the zoning district is changed by the commissioners upon your recommendation. The type of business would make use of the existing septic system and well, and assuming conditions are met as provided on the petitioner's letter to the planning department, would fall well within the parameters as considered by the comprehensive plan. So those are 5 possible findings you could adopt. Again, this is the same reason we didn't do this at the last meeting. We did not have a staff report. You still don't have a staff report from a planning director. These are based on what the evidence that we heard at January meeting and discussion with the staff. These are possible findings for the commission.
I'll make a recommendation that we accept and approve that with the findings that you just stated, Mr. Graham.
We have a motion by Ms. Spooner to adopt the findings of fact as read, and a second by Mr. Brown.
All right, we got a motion and a second. You got any other discussion?
Only due to the nature of the business, I think I would consider requiring them as part of that motion that when city sewer and water becomes available, they're required to hook up.
I think that it's within a certain number of feet. Is that 300 feet?
300 feet.
300 feet that they have to hook up. Is there public water utility within 300 feet of the parcel? Well, then, we're good. If it were, I would agree with what John said.
Yeah, but when it becomes available, when it's within 300 feet, that they're required to hook up. They're going to be, not in all cases are they made to hook up within.
That's correct. You
feet.
can't, yes.
So I stand by what I said.
Okay.
Can I amend that motion to include that?
Absolutely.
I would do that. I agree that if the utilities are coming available, the code for IS for that zoning change requires it. So if it would to come available, I agree that they should connect to public utilities.
Ms. Spooner has amended her motion to add a condition to require the petitioner to hook up to public utilities when they become available within 300 feet of the subject parcel. Mr. Brown, would you like to amend your second?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
When we put a timeline on that, there can't be a costly expense connected to the city.
It would just be when it becomes within 300 feet that they're required to hook up.
I second that motion.
Mr. Brown has amended his second, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the findings as read with the added condition that the petitioner be required to hook up to public utilities in compliance with state law when the public utilities come within 300 feet of the subject parcel.
All right. So we still have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, I will be ready for a roll call.
Okay, here we go. Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Bolander,
Yes.
Wes Likens.
Yes. Motion, sounds like motion passes.
Lazy.
Your next petition is under new business 2022-W-001, the address 4730 South Range Line Road in Anderson. The petitioner is the Kenneth Pittsford Trust. Current zoning classification is conservation residential. It is a waiver request for the width-depth ratio in the CR zone district. And I believe that you have the parcels on this. There's a letter from Ashton Land Surveyors. Is there anyone here today from the petition? Anyone that would like to speak on this or any other petition in front of the commission today, if you could, please sign your name. We keep a record of all this so we know who said what.
I'm Halden Ashton, surveyor, and I represent the Pittsfords in this. They had 160 acres. There were 3 children, so they divided into thirds. So approximately 700 foot by 2,640 foot, 3 times. Now, 2 of these folks, the ones that have the improvements on them, are asking to divide off part of the property. When they divide this off, that will make the large acreages to be non-conforming. So that's the reason they're asking for this, your consideration on this situation.
And so the plan is to continue farming the,
The remainder, yes.
so are they planning to sell it in the
They
future?
plan, I think, they would plan to sell these 2 properties that have the homes on them,
But keep the farm.
to keep the farm ground.
So you've got 2 parcels, one's 4.5 acres and one's a little over 7.
That's correct,
And so they'd sell those off individually?
yes.
So what's in question is the number of splits then on that?
What's that?
What's in question then is the number of splits out of that one parcel?
Well, what's in question is it leaves these other parcels non-conforming, the large parcels. The way I understand the situation, I think Brad had brought us up to that requirement that we come before this board and ask for those larger tracts.
Is it family owned? agreement with this? Everyone?
What's that?
Is all the family in agreement with this?
Yes, as far as I know, there's this has been something that, I think that, they realize now that they just want to keep the farm grounds.
So do they rent the farm ground to somebody else, or do they farm it themselves?
Last I knew, they farmed it themselves.
So I think the reason would be that of non-conforming, I'm not understanding exactly why it would be non-conforming.
Well, you take 375 foot off of the 700 foot, it only leaves you 380 foot of frontage and 2,640 foot of depth.
Okay, so but in most cases, that would still be enough frontage to do whatever somebody would want to do with.
Yes.
Do you know what the minimum frontage is required for the rest of that ag land, the 380? How short is the requirement? Did Brad tell you that information?
We are required to plat these so that they will be conforming once they're platted, these small tracts.
Okay.
Well, I would move that we approve this request for waiver. Obviously, the people who own the land are going to farm the land, and they're going to sell off the 2 parcels, and so the 2 parcels appear to be in compliance with any zoning ordinances we would have. So I would move that we accept this waiver request. And this would go before the commissioners too, right? It does not? Okay.
We do need to accept additional public comment, and we will have to make findings to that effect, but
Right, okay.
no, this is the final say on the waiver.
Does that have to be 5 acres to build a house on it? I see it's a little under 5.
The one property is under 5, but that is conforming once we make the plat.
Okay.
I was under the impression there is a house already there, is that?
There is an old house.
So we're
on
not
that property.
building anything, so it would be grandfathered in, I would think, anyway, with it being less than 5 acres.
You're at 4.44 acres? 4.44 acres?
Yes. And there's actually two different properties. There's another that's 7 acres. Go ahead, and I think you probably have it in your packet.
7.10 acres?
Yes.
And I will second Jerry's motion.
We do need to invite other public comment either for or against the waiver request. And then we will need to draft some findings that reflect the motion that been second you guys just made.
Right.
Can you guys still hear everybody speaking?
Kinda, it cuts out once in a while. We do have a motion?
Yes, but we haven't invited any other public comment yet. Is there any, on this particular waiver request, there's anyone that'd like to speak either for or against the waiver that's been requested relating to the property at 4730 South Range Line Road in Anderson? Commissioners, no one has stepped forward to speak, either for or against it, other than our surveyor, Mr. Ashton. So you could, and we do have a motion and a second. As part of that, we do have to adopt findings of fact. I can attempt to put something together.
Well, he has to do the findings of fact, Wes.
Got it. The findings of fact, there are 5. We just did one, so they should be nice and fresh in our memories. Number 1, would the approval be detrimental to the public safety, health, or general welfare of the community? No. And again, you guys can certainly help with this. The split and the waiver of the width depth ratio will not affect the surrounding land. The property is intended to be used for agriculture, and the granting of the waiver will not change this use. 2, would the approval of this petition be injurious to the reasonable use and development of other property? No. The use of the property, if the waiver is granted, will not change from its present use and therefore not affect surrounding properties. Are the conditions of this request unique to this specific property, which would not be applicable to other property? Yes, as testimony we've just received from the petitioner surveyor, this property is unique and requires this waiver in order to be split in the way contemplated by the trust. 4, which is the owner. 4, will the strict application, regulations, and ordinances result in any practical difficulty in the permitted use of the property? Yes. Again, owing to the dimensions of the property and the intentions of the trust, the owner. Absent this waiver request, the property could not be used in a efficient manner. And 5, would approval of this request contradict the intent of the comprehensive plan? No. The comprehensive plan supports the development of this type of business and farming in the subject parcels and surrounding areas, and is considered compliant by the Madison County Comprehensive Plan. That's good enough, that.
Jeff, I have a question. On the, since we don't have a director, I'm just curious, has somebody checked to make sure that's a legal split from that parcel? You're only allowed 3 splits per parcel, and I just didn't know if anybody looked into that or not.
Stacy, you know if the staff has? I know I haven't.
I have not. I don't know whether Liz did or not.
We can certainly, we could adopt the waiver contingent on the split being legal, which is a different matter.
That's kind of what I was thinking. That way we wouldn't delay it, but, there are some pretty strict rules about that, and Brad would have caught that if there was, but since he's not there, I didn't know.
I'll amend my motion to consider that investigation to make sure that they would be in compliant with the split requirements.
Would the surveyor know? I don't know if he checked into it or not.
How many times has that been split?
I think that meant you.
That's,
I'll look at that.
yes, we have, this has all gone through Brad to this point. And so we are following what he has, the guidelines that he has given to us.
Okay.
And that's, of course, we'll continue with that however you operate after his retirement.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anybody second your
We have
amended motion?
we have an amended motion by Mr. Alexander to incorporate Mr. Zimmerman's condition.
And I'll amend mine as well.
And Ms. Spooner amends her second. We have a motion and a second on the floor.
So, I think we're ready for a roll call now.
Yes, sir, I believe we are.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Bowlander,
Yes.
and Wes Likens.
Yes. Sounds like the motion passed.
So thank you all.
You have one more. It relates to property at 9639 West, 700 South in unincorporated Pendleton. The petitioners are Jeffrey and Tylene Baldwin. The current zoning classification is general commercial. The request under petition 2022-Z-2 is to rezone from general commercial to ag for purposes of selling their home from general commercial to ag for the purposes of selling their home in the general commercial zone district. Are there any, is the petitioner here today? Sign your name and explain briefly your commission and what you've got in mind.
I'm Jeff Baldwin, my wife Tylene. We bought this house, this property 30 years ago. As far as we knew, it was residential then when we bought it, or ag. We bought it for the sole purpose of raising a family, which we've accomplished that. So we decided after the family was raised and gone, we wanted to change, so we thought we'd sell the house. We put it up on the market. We had a potential buyer. They wanted the house. We accepted everything, accepted the offer, and they were waiting on lending the mortgage. And then when the mortgage company found out it was zoned commercial, they were denied the loan, so we lost that deal. We were shocked because, as far as we knew, it was still zoned residential. We had no idea. We even went to the assessor's office, the auditor's office, and they still have it classified as residential. So I guess we're at the point where we would like it turned back to either residential or ag, just so for the purpose of selling it. And we were also concerned because of what we were told, whether it's totally accurate or not, since it is commercial, if something were to happen to our house, whether it be a fire or natural disaster, we would not be able to rebuild there, which we had no idea. And through asking questions, we were heard that it happened in '02. We don't ever remember any notification of that. I've talked to neighbors, they don't remember anything like that. So right now, we're just trying to get it zoned back to ag or residential so we can sell the property. That's what we're at.
So you're saying the rezoning was after you purchased the
After we
land?
purchased the house, yes.
Isn't there a grandfather clause that relates to any rezoning? If a person or an owner is non-compliant, that they're automatically grandfathered in?
They're compliant, but when they're trying to sell to a new person, they're worried about the zoning.
Oh, the zoning for the new.
Compliance isn't the issue, it's.
When the planning commission went through, and I'm just gonna guess on this, when the planning commission went through their previous, comprehensive plan and land use study, there were several parcels that got, rezoned through the kind of the planning stage of that thing. And I'm guessing this is just one of those. And so there were public hearings and everything on all those maps that the planning commission held. But, it's not something that you would have noticed unless you're looking for it, and you wouldn't have noticed it unless you wanted to sell your house or remortgage it or something like that, and then it would have thrown up that red flag. And so it's really just a cleanup article for these guys. I wonder though, ag over residential, not that it really matters, I guess, to me, but,
You guys want us to do ag? Well, either one. I mean, as long as the potential buyers can get a mortgage, that's the only thing that stopped us so far.
Yeah.
And we lost that deal, so.
How much land is there with your house?
Oh, it's .777, so it's less than an acre.
Okay.
And we're the only residents in that stretch of ground that's zone commercial.
which maybe that makes more sense for it to just be ag, with everything else ag, well, except for the big parcel all the way around.
Right, yes. It goes from one road to the other, so.
In the GC zoning, it states that an existing dwelling, if anything was to happen and burn down, they would have to file for a special use. And as we explained to them, that if that, if that was to happen, then they would have to come before the board. But prior to that, we could not write a letter stating, yes, the board would allow you guys to build. It would be based on their decision, so. And I did pull several maps back to, '03 that still showed this property in general commercial zoning. So I did do some research for them because there were several conversations about this
we appreciate
property,
that.
so.
Everything on the other side of the street's ag though, right?
I don't
As
know,
far as I
because
know.
that's all Pendleton and LaPel.
Okay, gotcha.
What was it previously zoned, though? Was it residential?
As far as we know, I mean, I can't remember if it was residential. And had to be either one or the other since we did get a mortgage first.
Yeah, so you guys got a mortgage, 30 years ago?
Right.
Yeah,
So it had to be residential sometime.
yeah.
And there was a house there before you guys, so you didn't build the house there? It's
No.
5+ years.
It was there.
Okay.
There was a house there previous, before our house, as far as I've been told.
So you said they need a special exception if the house burns down, or do we have to wait till that happens?
If it's, yes, if it stays under the general commercial zoning,
Okay,
we can't do anything until it burns down and has to be rebuilt.
but if
Then
it
they
goes
would
to
have-
agriculture, it's
Or
okay.
residential.
Or residential, it's okay, all right.
Well, I'm going to move that we, in light of, obviously this is only a small parcel of land in the whole scheme of things here, and they bought this 50+ years ago, is that right? 30+ years ago, without any kind of remonstration against it, and it's just one of these things that slips through the cracks. So I would make a motion that we accept this particular rezoning that will have to go to the commissioners, I understand, is that correct?
Yes,
So, and the commissioners will pass this on with favorable findings for the commissioners to consider.
I second that motion. Well, I hope you guys continue to sell it.
Yeah.
Get another buyer.
Just for the record, does anyone like to speak on this? For or against?
Yes, we have in the past, is what, Mr. Newman stated.
Any chance of, spot zoning there? That, there's quite a bit of ag around there, as I remember.
Hi, good morning, Greg Valentine, 5297 South 800W. I'm just concerned about the zoning of this. I pulled up the current property record card yesterday, as well as all of them on that road. You might know that road is right at the boundary line of Town of LaPel and Madison County, but the first road, the first quarter mile of that is Ingalls. The first quarter mile coming off of Stairway 13 is Ingalls. So I serve on the Property Tax Board of Appeals and usually know these codes, but this is classified as a 511, which is basically ag. The properties along there, Sylvester's, west of you, It's classed as ag. There's one other house that Charlie Hampton's family owns, and it's classified 199. And I personally never heard of that code, but John knows I usually keep up on comprehensive plans and what's going on in my township, and somehow we missed this. I suggest you let them do what they need to do to sell it, but you can welcome to look at that.
Doesn't Mr. Valentine, doesn't the assessor, when they're coding for tax purposes, they're coding it on the basis of how it's used? Like if it could be in a commercial area used ag, and then when they're assessing the value, they do it based on its current usage. I think that's the correct way the assessor has to look at it.
I think so. This is only 77 hundredths of an acre. It's very
Right,
small
right.
plot along there. And like I mentioned earlier, across the road, that's all LaPel, town of LaPel now. But Ingles got the first quarter mile, and then Madison County's got the rest of it for your snow plowing and stuff like that. And this road, in case you're not familiar, it runs right over the county line, runs right over to 1000 Atlantic Road, which conveniently just happens to be 146th Street. So think about that down the road. We're already out there. They probably made you an offer.
Anyone else for or against this rezone request? We do have to make findings for the rezoning. Same as we did earlier today. Does the proposal comply with the comprehensive plan? Yes. The proposal, if approved, will put the property in line with surrounding property in terms of use. 2, would the proposed classification be consistent with current conditions, the character of current structures and uses in the immediate districts? Yes. By reclassifying this zoning district as ag, it will make the property more compliant with the current conditions in its current zoning classification. 3, will the proposed classification be consistent with the most desirable use for which the land is adapted? Yes. The most desirable use for the land currently is ag and residential use, which would allow, which this change would allow both potential uses. 4, does the proposal substantially conserve property values throughout the jurisdiction? Yes, the proposal will not change the use of the property from its current use, and therefore have no change to the property values of surrounding property. And 5, is the property reasonable with regard to responsible development and growth? Yes. The subject parcel is within an agricultural area, and as such should be classified as agriculture to allow for future growth and compliance with Madison County Comprehensive Plan. That would be possible findings you could make, and there's been a motion and a second. If those would be adopted, we could go on. Would you like to adopt what were just read?
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Brown has amended a second, so we have a motion and a second on the board for the commission for a favorable recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to grant the rezoning of the parcel in question.
Okay. Was there any other discussion?
We'll go from CR to Ag. GC to Ag, thank you.
We don't have any other discussion. I'm ready for a roll call.
Okay. Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd.
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Billander,
Yes.
and Wes Likens.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passed.
And I anticipate that that will be on the agenda for the February 15th meeting of the Commissioners to consider a ordinance change necessary to make that zoning change.
So we're ready for the next item on the agenda? Let, John, this one, we're going to start talking about this.
Thanks, Wes.
You spent some time on this already.
So, as most of you know, Brad's been absent for a little while. And after speaking to Brad, I'm not certain exactly when Brad will be back with us. And maybe not even at all. So we've reached that point where we need to have, really went beyond that point where we need to have somebody in place in the office with planning experience to do these chores for us. And we can keep moving forward. And so I asked Jerry Bridges to get a couple, to recommend a couple planners, and then Jeff and I reached out to Rachel that used to work in COG as well. She now works for HWC. So we got three consultants that would provide professional planners to work for the planning department in the interim. I would say probably 16 to 20 hours maybe in the office. The rest of the time would be on call. Obviously, we don't have money budgeted for that in professional services. We've got the remainder of Brad's salary that we can work with. The county council at their personnel board meeting has been made aware that of this subject matter and that it may require additional funding. And it also may require additional time to search for a new planning director if Brad doesn't come back. So I'm guessing we're probably looking at least 12 weeks of hiring somebody, and maybe more, and some other issues that may come up that we have to deal with as well, as far as criteria if we do have to search for a new director. So I don't know how you want to handle that. We can go through all three of these individuals are, have a lot of planning experience. One girl used to work for the city of, all three are women, city of Anderson as a planner. Rachel worked as a planner for COG, and then was planning director for Pendleton before moving to HWC. And then the other lady also has a lot of planning experience. Similar in cost. There's probably not $10 an hour difference between any of them, so that's kind of negligible. Jeff, do you have any additional comments from?
No, other than just the plan commission is hires the planning director at county government. So it would be the contract itself will be reviewed by the commissioners, but the selection itself is this group of 9. Make that call.
Yeah. All three individuals have some familiarity with Madison County. Rachel probably being the one that has the most recent experience, having been here at the county and also with the town of Pendleton. So I guess I'm looking for some direction from the planning department on how you would want to proceed from here. Would you like me to try and engage one of these individuals and get somebody hired? Do you want me to bring somebody back to the planning commission to do that?
So
how do you want to handle it? Do we need to get some
individuals?
I've talked to two of the three. The other lady I meant to contact yesterday, and I just ran out of time.
Jeff, could you repeat the 3 individuals? We can hear you a little better in the microphone you're speaking in.
I printed the one off and then in perfect John fashion didn't grab it off the printer.
Yes, indeed. One of them is, she currently works for HWC. Her name is Rachel Christensen. KK Gerhardt Fritz is another one that's interested in the position. And is it Deborah?
Yes.
Luzier?
Yes.
Deborah Luzier is the third.
Could we get a copy of all their resumes?
They're all professional planners.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have.
Okay.
John's talked with all 3 of them, but does he have kind of a recommendation
I mean, this is just to get us through, either Brad coming back, or if he isn't coming back, get us through to the end of that process of hiring
Have John
somebody.
talk right into the mic.
All right, John, sorry. I've never been accused of nobody being able to hear my mouth. But anyway, it would just be for the interim. So to hire this person for maybe 12 to 16 weeks. So up until when Brad comes back, or if Brad isn't coming back, yet to be determined, we put somebody else in place full time. So professional consultants, all three of them have planning department experience as far as leading a planning department.
Stacy,
Yes, ma'am.
do you know any of the three members that he mentioned? Didn't know if you had a working, I didn't know if you had a working relationship with any of them.
None of them, I don't. As long as we get somebody in there can help.
Yeah, they're all,
Plats and,
the county highway engineer, Jessica, knows all three. And she would give kudos to all three. I know that she probably has had a closer working relationship with Rachel. But beyond that, I'm not going to speak for her, but all three have some ties in Madison County.
Should we bring one of them or all of them in, John? Just
if you want to go through all that, Tom, have
No,
at
I
it.
don't know.
I'm just saying, if I were you guys, I'd just get on with hiring somebody. It's just going to be part-time.
That's fine. That's fine.
So, if you want to, somebody else wants to take hold and go do it, that's fine. I don't care.
No.
But it needs to be done 2 weeks ago. So that's my point. You can drag all that on.
please don't.
But it needs, I know, there, exactly. It needs to be done.
I know the office is hurting for somebody.
Yeah.
Back. I know that. They talk to me all the time. So, yes, just whatever we can get in there, I think that, immediately it'd be the thing to do.
And again, are you talking about, you said something about 16 hours a week they're in the office and then?
So, yeah, whatever is necessary, but I mean, my thoughts would be long enough to be there to give you all some guidance, to be there for the public. Certainly, the rest of that work they can do remotely, and we wouldn't have to pay them to be in there. So, they can have calls forwarded to them, emails, obviously, those type of things. It's not going to matter where you're at.
Okay.
Do all three of them have enough time in their schedule to be there 16 hours a week?
Yes, I believe so.
Do we know at all with Brad if he is not sure he's coming back, or when will we know if that he has a deadline to make a decision if he's going to return? Or
I would like to get. I really don't feel very confident that he will be back, to be honest with you. But I don't know 100%. So.
Okay.
We just kind of need to get that figured out. He's got time on the books, and that belongs to him. That being said, there's a process that go through for the planning department that'll take a considerable amount of time and work to get somebody else in place. So
these three people that you're considering, are they also considering the full-time position if it opens, or?
I would say no at this time, especially not for what we pay.
Okay.
There'd be no way in hell. So now, if you wanted to hire which I highly suggest, if Brad doesn't come back to hire a planner, we're going to need a lot more money than what we've got.
Okay.
And I'd be more than willing to ask for it and argue for it myself, because I think it's important, especially where this county's at this time. Brad was a unique individual that could come in and fill that void. But I'm not sure you've got somebody else lying in wait that can do that.
Yeah.
Do we want to pick one of these gals now? Today?
I'm just here telling you what I know. If it was,
Which one has the most experience with zoning laws?
all three. Yeah.
No, very
So,
Well, obviously, this particular board, to make this decision is you know, because we don't know all the resumes, what's going on. Is it possible for us we do have a human resources director. Can we allow her to interview these people and to ultimately
they're all professional, I guess. I'm just
Right.
trying to make this point. They're all professional. What's the word?
And they're
for plan-
contract,
cer-
they'll be contractors as
Yeah,
well, so they really won't be.
Well, then what we do we put them all in a hat and draw one out, or
I mean,
what
you
do
could,
recommend?
and you're gonna end up with all the same. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
that's my point. I'm not
Right.
here trying to
So,
make the
in a
decision
normal
for the board.
in a normal process like this,
But I guess don't complicate it. They're all
Yeah, right.
qualified. You know, I guess from my standpoint, I talked to a long time to Deborah. I mean, she was awesome. I've known Rachel and worked with Rachel when she was here at COG, not when she was with the town of Pendleton, but she's very recently familiar with Madison County. So I would probably lean that way myself just because of that. But it's at the board's discretion. And if you want to go through some other process, that's fine. I'm just saying, keep in mind that, that's going to take you several weeks for something that's just a short-term
Right.
thing, and if,
Do those three also have other jobs they're working? So they're kind of just helping out for a few weeks, right? They have other commitments with other.
they would probably work in, this is a big enough job that you're going to have a substantial portion of your week that's
Yeah.
going to be devoted to it. But there would be other times that they're going to fill in and work on other projects, most certainly.
Is there one that has more time available than the other three? Do you know?
They all committed to being able
Okay.
to do it.
I think the main thing here is just to get somebody in there to help the girls in the office so we can keep moving forward.
Well, there's a little bit of complication that automatically that runs with it, is that we can't appropriate money ahead of the county councils. So.
But you can transfer money, Jerry. And so
I know
you
we can transfer money, but we can't legally commit a cost without the county council's approval of that.
No, you can legally commit anything. You just can't spend it without money being appropriated.
Well, yeah,
So
I just want to make sure that
So,
we're not.
and it's the same thing with this. Any contract that's signed has to go before the Board of Commissioners, so.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a motion that since we have a relationship with all of these individuals, I would make a motion that Rachel, what's her last name?
Christensen.
Rachel Christensen would obviously negotiate with the county council in terms of how much it would cost to hire her to get the funds appropriated. But we got to start somewhere, I agree, because we've got a real estate sale that's out here pending and can't happen unless we do something. We just have to have somebody in this role to get these kinds of things going. So I make a motion that we reach out to Rachel Christensen and negotiate a pay that's agreeable with the council and everybody on it.
I got a question.
So I'm not going to second Jerry's motion, I guess, for a reason. I'm fine with Rachel, but I mean, as far as negotiating a contract and doing all that, I mean, these are professional.
Mm-hmm.
They're all getting paid about the same amount of money, and none of them cheap. But I mean, there's not.
Well, it's pretty clear that and I'm certain the council will approve it. I just, I don't want to be somebody that's making the decision for the council. But I think that the personnel committee will basically, this is not an employed person. This is basically spending professional expenses that has to be increased. I mean, and because there's not that money in the budget currently for this particular office, it has to be somehow approved.
I have a question on that, Jerry. So we have money in our budget, but we just have to move it from a line item, right? So we have to get council approval to move the money to pay this person. But we already have the money in our budget.
I saw that too.
Am I right?
You're gonna have some money in some areas.
Right.
There's,
There's money
you
to
know,
move.
but it'll require some new money. By the time you pay Brad out, there'll be money left in his salary. But it'll require new money, and it won't be just
Additional.
It won't be just peanut. I mean, it's not gonna be hundreds of thousands of
Right.
dollars, but it's gonna require a little bit of extra money to go through this process.
And that's, so we're looking at the first, 12 to 15 weeks, right? Just.
I mean, you could end up going through all that process and not find anybody you wanted to hire. So,
Right.
I mean, who knows?
Well,
you're not gonna find a certified planner at what we're paying.
Right.
At all.
We discussed that before,
So-
yeah.
I'll amend my motion just to say that we
Hey, I
get
have a
to-
suggestion. Why don't we, John seems to like, this Rachel a little bit better than the other two. I guess I would propose that, be under John's discretion on picking one, and if we can get her ASAP to help in the office, that'd be awesome.
I would like to add, I've worked with Rachel in the past. She's very good working with the public. She's top notch. I've worked with her in the past, so I would probably lean that way also.
So are you guys making that a motion? John, are you making that a motion?
Yes, I am making that.
All right, I second your motion.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Is it to designate John as the representative of the Plan Commission to work out an agreement with HWC to hire an interim plan director by contract with Rachel Christensen.
Does Jerry still have his original motion on the floor?
You didn't have a second.
Okay.
So we're good.
So let me ask a question. The first motion that Jerry Alexander made,
It died for lack of a second.
Yeah.
Can we clarify the motion? There's some confusion on whether John's motion was to designate John to make the hire or to designate John to hire HWC/Rachel. I'd recommend carte blanche. If not, we've got to we've got to have a
If you can't work it out with Plan A, then you need to move on to Plan
Plan B quickly, or we don't want to be back here in March again.
we might pull our hair out by then, I'm just letting you know.
I won't.
Getting a little hairy up there.
So to clarify,
Sooner the better.
did they determine?
I'll
Then
correct
I'll make a
my
motion.
second on that.
Did they determine which one it's gonna be? So did they determine if it's gonna be A or B? Which one is it?
John, can you hear what they're saying?
John, what was your motion? Is it going to be to designate Mr. Rich Wine to hire any of the three to use John's discretion to make the selection? Or is it to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but it sounds like we're a little bit more in favor of Rachel. If that's his first pick, that'd be great. If it doesn't work out with her, then he has the discretion to pick one of the other two.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Lindsay seconds.
So we've got a few motions out there. Does that?
I think you just got one,
Go
Wes.
back to that?
You got one, Wes, the other ones fall off because it lack of second.
The first one did not have a second, so it fell off.
Okay, got it. All right, we got a motion and a second. Are we ready for roll call now?
Yes, we are.
All right, thanks.
Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Bolander,
Yes.
and Wes Likens.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Does anybody else there have any other discussion today, or we wrapped up?
Yeah, question.
The only question I have, John, is, did he, I was just curious timeline when one of those could get in there pretty quickly. It sounds like we need her desperately.
Yeah, the county council has a meeting tonight, and so, we would need to try and get them to transfer some money in order to pay. And I'm not certain what's in professional services at the moment. And then the contract, which is yet to be negotiated, would be before the Board of Commissioners on Tuesday. And then we'd be prepared to have somebody in.
Okay.
I still have a question about procedure on that because we haven't advertised
Any other discussion?
this.
Hang on, Jerry's asking questions, Wes.
Okay, I can't.
It'd just be a transfer between,
Is that necessary for since it's not new money, would that still have to be advertised? Jeff?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Ted.
Yeah, okay, so we may have to call for a special meeting
that's possible.
in order to do it.
I think you're good, personally.
You do transfers without legal ad.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Lickers, this is Ken Delvestide. Just have a quick question. With the hiring, I'm just saying, of an interim director, as that's the way I'll refer to Rachel, how does this impact the new solar ordinance going forward? Since Brad is the only one that really understands that ordinance, how does that impact the timeline for this commission? Thank you.
I'm happy to go. John, can you help with that?
Jeff?
Yeah.
Jeff can probably.
Yes, there's a couple things on that end. It was drafted by Brad. He is the expert on that. In talking to one of the potential people to be the new interim plan director, they were pretty adamant that the new ordinance should be done with the input of whoever the permanent director is. So ultimately, it'll naturally cause a delay because of Brad's illness and absence and possible replacement. The good news is, and Mr. Alexander brought this to my attention earlier, it was last month, I guess, that there is no pending legislation to force the county's hand. We were worried that there would be a new statute in place in July that would grandfather in any local control over solar ordinances, but it does not appear that's going to be the case. And so that gives a little bit of breathing room in terms for the county to hopefully have their new director in place and have the thing passed, but it's absolutely going to cause a delay.
Yeah.
Well, there is a bill that's passed the Senate that still has not passed the House, but that relates to a voluntary. It doesn't make it mandatory like it did the last time, and I think that's the reason it's actually getting approval. So it'll be voluntary for any county to use the state's recommendations. So should they choose, or they have the opportunity at any time to establish an ordinance that's more restrictive. So it takes the heat off of us anyway in that capacity. And again, it's 10:30. I've got to get on the call. It relates to my job, so I apologize for having to leave.
Or anything now?
Wes, we have someone at the podium that would like to speak.
Am I up? Okay. Hey, folks, I'm Kevin Majeski with Carpenter Realtors, and I am a participant in the transaction that Jerry alluded to earlier. We have a 2-acre parcel that the administrative plat was approved by Brad shortly before he became ill, and the last communication was that it hasn't been approved. You may submit the final plat at any time. That was dated December 14th. the transaction was scheduled to close December 31 based on the history of the transaction. So I'm encouraged that we have some movement here in terms of people who are going to step in and assume some of Brad's responsibilities. I'm wondering, knowing that that's still going to be a process, since this was just right up to the line of needing Brad's final signature, everything is in the office that that is needed. The application, the payment, the parcel, the action surveyor's final plat. We're just needing final review and signature for this transaction to close. We're over 2 months past that time. Is there a city attorney or any kind of interim process that would allow us to get this final sign off so we can close this transaction? That's my request petition.
Jeff?
I'll have to review our ordinance on that. This commission could certainly authorize someone to be the planning director for 5 seconds to sign the thing. That person would likely want to review. I assume this has been through tech committee and.
Yes, it was waiting his final approval
So
for his request.
so you have that, and then the final plat would go in front of the commissioners as well, correct?
It wasn't a rezone that you were requesting, it was just a
Subdivide.
subdivide.
Okay,
yes,
subdivision,
to 2
gotcha.
acres, so yeah.
Yes, no change in the.
And it didn't.
Administrative function
Yes.
for the director.
Yeah, it was just I looked at that. Well, the surveys got mixed up, sorry, with some of the other stuff, so it came through and I did look at that and everything looks fine and legit with zoning. It was just a split going down to 2 acres approximately.
This commission could authorize one of the current planning employees to execute the document after legal review.
I would suggest we do that. It's not good to hold up all these things. I mean, we have a buyer, interest rates and all that stuff going through in a transaction. I would recommend we sign this and let them get on with their business.
Does it have to be an employee, or could it just be you or one of the planning members?
It could be anybody. You're effectively having an interim planning director for just this one purpose.
I'd make a motion that subject to Jeff's review and Denise's review and approval, that they be able to complete this administrative function on the plat presented by Carpenter Real Estate.
Yes, I second.
I have a motion and a second.
Any questions? Roll call.
Sorry, I missed part of that too.
We have a motion and a second to authorize Ms. Spooner and myself to review and once we're happy to sign off on this administrative function that it seems like it's already been completed. We'll want to put a set of eyes on it and make sure. But we're holding up a real estate transaction because of Brad's absence. This would cure that.
I think we need to get moving. All right, are we ready for a roll call now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander, Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepard.
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Bolander,
Yes.
and Wes Likens.
Yes. Motion passes.
Woohoo!
All right.
Hi, Denise Etchison. I'm
Party to the transaction.
party to the transaction, especially. Thank you. I want to thank you guys for this, and I appreciate it getting done, especially Denise, for
Welcome.
understanding.
Yeah, I totally understand.
That's all. Thank you.
I always wanted to go on a trip, but I wasn't planning on that trip. Hi, my name is Peggy Roby, and some of you know me as Peggy May. I taught in Anderson Schools for 36 years, and I was born at St. John's Hospital in Shakira, but I've been in Madison County since I took my first breath. I'll probably be here when I take my last breath. And I'm a property owner in Madison County, have been since 1974. And one of the reasons I'm here today, I appreciate your time. Thank you all so much. And I appreciate all the time you put into making decisions that affect my children, my grandchildren, and all of yours, all of your loved ones. And I want to bring before you some facts that you may not know about. You probably do, not that you're not all intelligent, but when it came to my knowledge that a lot of solar panels were going to be going in, and there is an ordinance I've been reading through that Brad worked so hard for 3 years on. But when it came to my knowledge that there might be a lot of solar panels, I just decided I'm not going to make it about how it looks to me, even if I'm surrounded. I'm not going to make it about what will be the property value. It's what is the value of the property. It's what is the value of the land. And so I started doing research. I went in and talked to Brad and talked to Liz, and I started doing research on exactly what these solar panels mean to us. If it means betterment for everybody, I'm not going to sit back and say, well, I'm going to be surrounded and I don't want to see it because it's betterment for everybody. But when I started investigating, and the U.S. Department of Energy, I don't know if you realize this, but last February, they launched a program to start collecting solar energy in space, not terrestrial. And they had a successful trial on that. And so the United States Air Force is saying that to be more competitive on the battlefront, that we should go with space collection of solar energy, which means that terrestrial would become obsolete in the future. And right now, it's Australia has 7 stations ready to go in space. And not, a lot of people don't hear about this, but there's 7 stations that they're going to be powering their grid through space collected energy. So I started looking at, well, what in the meantime, that's going to take a while, that's going to take money. But right now, the government is offering such incentives to solar companies to go ahead and push solar. I mean, everywhere you look on the internet is saying $2,000 if you'll sign up, $2,000 to you, $2,000 to you. And so I thought, you know, I got to look about these solar panels, and I want all of you to know, seriously, these solar panels are made of mostly glass, but they contain camdium. It's a rare earth mineral. It is carcinogens. They contain lead, which is a carcinogen. Now, I wouldn't mind that so much, these panels being made of that, if they were going to last forever. But I'm under the impression that the solar companies are signing up for 25 to 30 years, which means those panels don't have an entire life. They're going to, and if those elements that are in the panels, if those elements that are needed to collect the solar energy, you see, we can't just collect that solar energy without those precious rare earth minerals that are non-renewable. Remember, I said they're non-renewable. You can look this up. And one of them, INDIUM, something like that, is about ready to be depleted because of the massive mining of it. So when these rare earth minerals are used up, they can't make any more panels because that's needed to collect the solar energy. Then, if they did have a life that was forever, we could say, okay, we'll be set. They'll power the grid. But right now, the first batch of solar panels that were in use, they're coming to the end of their life. Where are they going? They're going to a landfill. They're going out there somewhere. And why do they have to be thrown away? If these elements are contained within them that are going to collect the solar energy, where is the carcinogens? Where are they at? If these panels are no longer good. So I read about it, and and I'm going to provide all of you. I'm going to get all of your emails, and I'm going to give you all of I've got like at least 10 references that it's not just me standing here saying this honestly. I am a concerned citizen for our country. I'm not concerned about looking at it. I'm not concerned about being surrounded by it. I'm concerned about the future. And let me continue, please. These panels that they put out there, they have already somehow leached out these carcinogens. Seriously. The carcinogens by the rainwater are leaching out into the ground. So the solar company might say, well, we'll come back in 30 years, 25 years. We'll remove those. We'll put in new ones. Well, they may not be able to make new ones because all the rare earth minerals have been depleted. And then they say, well, we'll move them and you can farm that land. But the carcinogens that were in those panels is evidently not there anymore. Or they would be able to continue to collect the solar energy. So all those carcinogens are now down in the earth. And as they go into the earth, the rainwater washes them into the aquifers. So, okay, so the people around there have to deal with that. Well, a few years back, China began to buy a lot of our land in the United States because they wanted grass-fed cattle. I think they wanted the beef. And China began to buy our land, so we were losing that land. Now solar companies, and I'm not blaming the solar company because they may feel like they're doing a good deed. All of you, if you vote for solar in Madison County, you may think that you're helping supply energy, but the solar panels do not provide that much. And when they are dead in 30 years, 25, 30 years, when they're gone, and if they can't replace more, then there they may sit. If we go to space collected solar energy, which they are, I'll bring you the evidence of that. I'll present it to you, which they're going toward. Those solar companies will probably go bankrupt. Some people will say, no, they won't go bankrupt. But you that were here, and some of you were, when General Motors was really booming in Anderson, we never thought we'd lose General Motors. We never thought they'd go bankrupt. We thought we had it made when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, it was like Fred Flintstone at the end when the whistle blew at the factory. Some of you remember that. The people were zooming out from every direction. Towns around us, people worked here. We were thriving. Now, we don't need to thrive by the money that they offer you. If the solar companies offer Madison County $1 million, I'm telling you, if we deplete our farmland, if we don't have our food supply, I'm telling you that no amount of money. You remember, you probably heard about the Irish, the famine in Ireland, the potato famine. A lady had a bushel of money. She had all of her money. She saved it. But when she went out to get her food, that bushel of money was worth nothing. No amount of money is worth depleting our ability to sustain our life and to have food for our livestock and to have food for us. So we need to, I really implore you, as a concerned citizen, not for the look of it, not for the irritation of it, but because of the future of our country. A lot of this research I've done, Brad said you need white paper. You need white paper research. Well, at this time, the solar farms so far have been small scale, and they haven't been like what we're looking at facing. And a lot of the articles say, in trying to collect the light today, and getting more light today, in our future we may end up in a much darker place. And we also have one other thing. There's converters that are necessary. I'm getting such a dry mouth from talking so fast. I'm trying to get you out of here. Tom probably remembers how fast I could talk in school. I don't know if you remember. I went to school with Tom, but anyway, I was a fast talker. And I should have brought some water. But anyway, one more thing. The energy that is collected by the solar panels has to be converted to transferable energy. The transferable energy is sent out. And according to Ken Drury, who's looking at the project where I'm at, I've talked to him because he wanted to take my little parcel, which is only 10 acres. But according to him, it's going to go to the highest bidder. The highest bidder. So it's not going to help local people. It's going to go to the highest bidder. So that kind of tells you, well, is it about the money? You kind of think so because, it's not, anyway, the converters that transfer the energy from the solar panels into transferable energy, those converters go ahead and they create a waste product. The waste product is an electricity that cannot be used. So from solar energy to transferable energy, there's a waste energy they call it dirty electricity, DE. And the dirty electricity is in the air, just like if I talk to somebody across the country. I can hear them instantaneously because it travels in the air. This dirty electricity is going to be out there. The dirty electricity is charged, electrically charged, and it can't affect I know my time's up.
I mean, no offense.
No.
I need to go
It can't affect our cellular. It can't affect our cellular.
For tonight's meeting, and
Thank
then
you
I've
so
got
much.
a doctor's appointment, so if I don't get on with that, I'm not gonna get it done.
I beg your pardon. I thank you so
And
much. I will email you guys.
But there is, I mean, I love listening to what you got to say,
No.
but there is a public hearing, for all these things. And
Absolutely,
this
but
is
all of these people need to be informed of this and be able to make a wise decision because our future, my kids, my grandkids, it's in their hands. So they need to have this information and not just hear that solar energy is cracked up to take care of everything. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about?
Hey, Laureen White.
There's more public comment, Wes.
I brought visual aids.
There is more public comments that are coming forth.
Our agenda's pretty full today. I don't know where everybody else is at.
You have an extra one? I
Sure.
need to have it for our records, please.
You done one of them, don't you?
Thank you.
I want to provide the council some background information and ask some questions regarding parcels at 705 East School Street, 815 East School Street, and 827 East School Street. These parcels are owned by business entities operating under the name Drew's Parts. As the commission members are aware, after 27 citizen emails documenting noncompliance, in December of 2020, Drew's was found to be in violation of several sections of the Madison County zoning ordinance.
Ms. White, can you speak into the microphone?
Sure.
Yeah, get it down close to your mouth so they can hear.
To bring the property back into compliance, the Executive Director of the Planning Commission, Brad Newman, put together a timeline with deadlines for Drew's to meet. If you look at the first 4 pages of your packet, 3 pages of your packet, you'll see that timeline. To date, Drew's is 200 days past due on the original deadlines for stormwater and pond, lean-to across the east, and buffer yard along the north and east side. I reviewed the emails and planning commission meetings. Drew's has asked for 2 extensions on these deadlines. These extensions expired 110 days ago. At the January 11th, 2022 meeting, although Drew's was already past his final extension, this commission gave him till the end of March to complete the pond. After speaking to some of the commission members, I felt like it might be helpful to provide some clarification on a couple of items. In December of 2021, I received an email in which Jerry Alexander proclaimed the Planning Commission doesn't have the power to enforce the ordinance. Page 4 of the packet shows the email he sent. I'm sure Jerry can confirm this communication for you as well. Based on this information, after the January meeting, it occurred to me that, although these appointments are funded with tax dollars, perhaps more members of this commission don't know their duties either. If you flip to page 5 of the packet provided, I've given you all a copy of Article 14, Section 1, entitled Authority. Let's take a quick read together so that we're all on the same page. The Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, Board of County Commissioners, and/or Planning Department and their designees are designated to enforce the provisions, regulations, and intent of this ordinance. All remedies and enforcement shall comply with the powers set forth. How does the commission go about this enforcement, you ask? Well, the ordinance tells you in Article 14, Section 12, entitled Enforcement, Remedies, and Injunctive Relief. Again, I provided the commission this section of the ordinance in case you have not read it. It states in relevant part, the planning director and any enforcement official designated by this ordinance may bring an action in the Circuit or Superior Court of Madison County to evoke any legal, equitable, or special remedy for the enforcement of any ordinance or regulation created under Indiana Code 3674 and its subsequent amendments. During a subsequent conversation with Mr. Alexander, I was told he simply did not have time to read the email sent regarding this parcel. Let me break that down a little. A member of the Planning Commission, compensated for his time with Madison County tax dollars, informed me he doesn't have time to allocate to citizen concerns regarding continuing violations. To the extent that you believe perhaps Mr. Alexander misspoke or I heard him wrong, at the January 11th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting, Mr. Alexander left early. He's gone now. During that same December conversation, Mr. Alexander also informed me that he and the rest of the commission members rely on the executive director of the Planning Commission, Brad Newman, to provide updates and report accurately on any issues as it relates to zoning in the county. This seems like a completely understandable position to take. However, in this instance, you all receive emails from multiple Madison County citizens with documentation that directly contradicts Newman's assertions? How many of you have questioned Newman regarding his contradictions? Just so we're on the same page, I provided documentation of more than 3 instances in which the information Newman provided to the commission members is blatantly inaccurate. As you can see, each time the Planning Commission were provided documentation providing the information, proving the information provided by Newman was inaccurate. At this point, I'm hoping you can all help me to understand a decision that was made by the Commission on January 11th, 2022. The Executive Director of the Planning Commission, Brad Newman, stood here and lied to the Commission. Planning Commission members have been provided documented proof of these lies, yet the Commission voted in the January 11th, 2022 meeting to retain him as an Executive Director. Why? I think this Commission owes an explanation to my neighborhood. Tell them why their tax dollars mean less than Drew's parts. Explain to them why you have now waited 200 days with no consequences. Explain why Mr. Drews has erected a new structure in violation of the ordinance. Explain to them why, in the January 11th, 2022 meeting, you all voted to retain an executive director who you know provided you with inaccurate information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion today?
Anybody else wants to speak?
Yeah, but everybody's gone. All right. This solar stuff's gonna be bad if we don't get on. I mean, you guys up there.
Jeff, where are we at?
Hang on, he's getting to the podium.
There's, we still have 6 members present. There's no further agenda items. If the commission would like it, it could adjourn. That the agenda has been handled.
Wes, were you able to hear Ms. White and the complaints? Have you received the emails? I'm just wondering if there's any further discussion on what we're going to do. I mean, we have did you look up 7?
Jeff's gonna help us out on that one.
Well, we do have, right now, we don't have an executive director. That's until that domino is knocked over, you guys direct that person, him or her, and that person will inherit this mess. And we really shouldn't be getting back into that. We've gone through every agenda item. There's been no vote to amend the agenda. And now we're talking about solar panels and stuff that was not on the agenda. If that's the way the commission wants to go, that's fine. If we want to beat up Brad, who's ill, and call him a liar at a meeting, that's fine. But my recommendation would be to adjourn this meeting. And Mr. Likens, I would respectfully ask that you call for that motion.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I just have one question.
Go ahead.
Second.
Do we get a second?
Second.
We have a question on the floor.
Is it the position of the board that you can't take any action against this parcel without an executive director?
No, of course not.
Go ahead.
Stacy,
Yes, sir.
did we get a second?
We got a Shepherd seconded, but who first? Who made the motion to adjourn?
I did.
You did?
But Wes
Okay.
did.
My apologies. So we have a first and a second.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, the same? Adjourn.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Wes.
Just so freaking hot.
Yeah.